of the latest mass shooting in the United States that claimed the lives of 19 innocent children and 2 teachers, one of whom you see a photograph there on your screens. Irma Garcia, a teacher who heroically tried to save the lives of her students, but was tragically murdered after an 18-year-old gunman opened fire inside of her classroom with an assault rifle. This is the current state of the United States, as President Joe Biden has now had to visit not one, but 2 cities over the course of the last 2 weeks after mass shootings earlier in Buffalo, New York just 2 weeks ago. We've also been covering mass shootings in California, and this was just the latest one that claimed the lives of 21 innocent people. As we continue to monitor all of the latest fallout, we do want to, of course, remember the victims. And we do want to take you out to, and let's listen in to this piece on all of the victims.
Family and friends of those killed are now sharing photos and stories of their lost loved ones. And we want to take a moment now to honor all of the victims.
Ava Mireles, 44, 4th grade teacher. Irma Garcia, 46, 4th grade teacher. Yuzia Garcia, 8 years old. Xavier Javier Lopez, 10 years old. Eliana Cruz Torres, 10 years old. Jose Flores Jr., 10 years old. Jayla Nicole Silguero, 10 years old. Emery Joe Garcia, 10 years old. McKenna Lee Elrod, 10 years old. Ellie Lugo Garcia, 10 years old. Anabel Guadalupe Rodriguez, 10 years old. Jacqueline Jalen Cazares, 10 years old. Jace Carmelo Luivanos, 9 years old. Rogelio Torres, 10 years old. Alexandria Lexi Rubio, 10 years old. Miranda Mathis, 11 years old. Nevaeh Bravo. Tess Marie Mata. Maite Rodriguez. Alethea Ramirez. Leila Salazar. No photo available.
Family and friends.
And those are the names that we will never forget. They are all portrayed here outside of the Robb Elementary School with photographs also of each of them. We just saw President Joe Biden visiting this memorial outside of this elementary school. And in the days, in the weeks, in the months, in the years after this tragedy, these 21 families will forever be changed by this tragedy. And no one better to speak about what that experience is like than a mother who went through this just years ago when Sandy Hook occurred, and she suffered the same kind of utter heartbreak. And we do want to play for you this interview done by our Live Now from Fox Phoenix team. Let's listen in.
Just some of those 19 children, the 2 school teachers shot and killed in Uvalde, Texas. We can't show their faces enough, as this is just devastating for this community. And we have reaction coming in from lawmakers, from athletes, and also from parents and family members of former school shooting victims. I now want to bring in right here Michelle Gay. Michelle lost her daughter, Josephine Gay, in the Sandy Hook school shooting 10 years ago. Joining us now, she's devoted her life to school safety, running the organization Safe and Sound Schools. Michelle, we just so appreciate you taking time out of your day, because I know that you're probably busy right now. First things first, when you saw the news of this shooting coming out of Uvalde, Texas, I can only imagine your feelings, your stomach dropping. Take us through that day.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I, like everybody else, just didn't want to believe the news that I was hearing. I was hoping that that would not be the case. But as information kept coming in, the story just began to be all too familiar to us.
So with taking a look at these images here, there's a lot of frustration coming in from all angles. Parents who were unable to reunify with their children, and now seeing the shooter, Salvador Ramos, that 18-year-old. You've been through this before. I'm sure that it hasn't gotten any easier, but are these parents ever going to recover from this? What does the future look like for them?
Well, I would say it's a tough question to answer. Recovery is a journey, and they are only just at the very, very early stages of that journey. It will be a long road. It will take a lot of support from their beautiful community, from their family and their friends, and from strangers like us that are sending our love and our support their way.
Your daughter, Josephine, she would have been 17 years old this year. Many of these parents have had their children ripped away from them far too soon as well. Does it ever get better? How do you remember her? How do you honor her life and her classmates' lives every year?
I love that you started this segment with the people that matter most, the children and the teachers and their families. And that's where I think we need, those are the faces we want to remember. Those are the names we want to remember. And that's how we move forward. We hold on to our little girl, all of our wonderful memories, all of those pictures of her, and we keep her spirit very, very close to us. She guides us and inspires us to help other communities, to help other schools, and to support families and communities like Uvalde when they are faced with the unthinkable, like we've been.
So talk about your organization, talk about Safe and Sound Schools. What do you guys do? What's kind of in the works? Explain it for all of us.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit. We're a school safety education and resource center. So we provide a lot of trainings and materials and resources to support school communities in crisis prevention, crisis response, and crisis recovery. So really just trying to support those communities in all facets of their preparedness, making sure they have the people, the resources, the training that they need, ideally to prepare for and prevent something like this from ever happening. Unfortunately, sometimes we cannot. So we need to be prepared to respond and keep everyone as safe as possible. And when the worst does happen, we have to be prepared to support the community and families through recovery. So those are our core mission areas, and we provide lots of training, programs, resources. Folks can check all of that out on our website at safeandsoundschools.org.
So I'm curious, after hearing about this and seeing this, I mean, were you frustrated? Do you feel like things are getting better, or are they getting worse?
So I don't know a single person who couldn't feel frustrated and angry and emotional about this on a personal level, and for those families and that community. The work that we do is not involved in legislation or gun policy. Our work is very grassroots. It's very community oriented, and it looks different in every community because every community is different. So the work that we do is the long haul. It's about getting people working together, sharing resources, educating and training one another. And that for us is where we see progress. It's where we see communities really having an impact and improving the safety and security for all students and staff and visitors even to our school communities.
I know that you guys focus on recovery efforts, but in looking at the first response there on the ground, I'm curious what your thoughts were. Do you think things could have been done differently? We can always Monday morning quarterback, but what were your thoughts of the response there in Uvalde?
I would say first that it's early days, and we really do have to give law enforcement time to do their investigation, outside agencies to do the investigation, so that we know that we have the facts as they really are. I remember all too well being in the position of, hearing information and reacting so emotionally, only to learn that that wasn't the complete story. So I would urge caution there as details emerge. But, if it is true that the response was hindered in any way, that is a key factor it's obviously incredibly important that our schools and our public safety agencies and professionals are working, in lockstep so that they can get in there in moments where they are needed, when protection is needed for our students and our staff. So we will have to see. But I've heard that, I've seen that on the news, and if that is the case, that is just another whole layer of devastation to add to this horrible tragedy.
Yeah, because I guess it's that it's out of your hands kind of situation. They're trying to come to the school. It was called in and they heard about it, but they couldn't actually access their children. There's videos of them standing outside of the school, and I can't even imagine what's going through your mind. You'll do anything at that point. So we'll watch the investigation ending on more of not a lighter note, I guess, but a more positive note. You touched on it before, but every day, I'm sure, is its own day, and you have to wake up with a fresh perspective. But if you were to give a message of hope to these families of these victims, not only the children, there's those 19 children, but also 2 teachers, in which one of the teachers' husbands also passed away from grief, from a heart attack. But what would your message be to these victims?
Like everyone, I just want to wrap my arms around the whole community, all of the families. I want them to know that they are so loved by complete strangers all across the country and around the world, that we are committed to standing with them and beside them, however they choose to move forward in honor of their loved ones. It's a journey, and it's a journey that they shouldn't, forge ahead on by themselves. Family, friends, community, for me, faith, those have been my partners, along this journey, and I wish and hope for the same for them. But the most important thing is to just have no expectations, to just take it slow, and to focus on small steps each day. And like I said, to know that they are so loved and so prayed over by so many of us around the country.
Well,
Great advice and great insight there from a woman who knows this pain better than anyone else. We are quick. Good afternoon and welcome into Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Gabrielle Amato, live now from our Orlando studios. If you are joining us from a beach house, from a lake house on this Memorial Day weekend, we do want to thank you for choosing to begin your Sunday with us here on Live Now from Fox. We want to take you out to a live look at the Big Apple, New York City, where many of you have probably left the city for the weekend, going to perhaps neighboring New Jersey to hit the beach, as Memorial Day weekend does officially mark the opening of the beaches, at least on the East Coast. We do want to get you up to speed with all of the top stories that we are monitoring today, beginning with the national gas average. The national average for a gallon of regular gas has hit a new record high. $4.61 is the average across the United States. And this is just the latest piece of what's been a really rough year in terms of business news. All of this comes as a time where inflation is also hovering very close to a 40-year high. We always work with our Fox Business team to bring you the very latest when it comes to all of these elements that do impact each and every one of you tuning in. So always keep an eye on our coverage of the very latest when it comes to all of the news that affects your wallets. We also are monitoring the very latest when it comes to Memorial Day weekend. Over 3,800 flights have been canceled across the United States on Friday and Saturday alone. We are, of course, still working to get you Sunday's numbers, but it's been a pretty rough day at the airport and rough couple of days. Delta has actually seen the highest influx of canceled flights. We were live just earlier this morning at the Atlanta airport where nearly 250 flights were canceled, 9% of its operations eliminated on Saturday. That's Delta Airlines, that is. And so if you are flying Delta, or if you are hitting the airways and heading to the airport over the course of the next 24 hours or so, we do want to let you know to check your flights, because we are seeing delays across the country. We do want to bring you the very latest, of course, when it comes to Memorial Day. We take a look at the first stop for America's fallen when they return home to the United States, because it is worth reminding you all, while we talk about vacations, a long weekend, the opening of the beaches across the country, this day is really to remember our fallen veterans. Our Fox News national security correspondent, Jennifer Griffin, she has more on where our veterans go when they return from war. This story for us. Let's take a listen.
The dignified transfer of America's fallen. The first stop for U.S. service members killed overseas when they return home is Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. It's where their families wait, VIPs gather, the Honor Guard is called, and members of the Air Force Mortuary Affairs team have the solemn task of preparing the remains of America's war dead for burial. Every day is Memorial Day here.
There's not another mission really exactly like it in the military.
Major Matthew Knight is the senior chaplain at Dover. He joined the military after 9/11.
We want to ensure whenever our fallen come through here that they and their loved ones are shown dignity and respect.
Crystal Seymour is a sergeant first class.
I am a Army liaison officer, and I feel as though I've touched a multitude of families throughout the most tragic time. It's about living on through the work that you do.
Sometimes the families are in denial.
I remember having a family who came and sat down with a small child and just refused to believe that their loved one had died. And when they saw his transfer case come off the aircraft, suddenly an emotional dam broke.
The families are brought to Fisher House, which accommodates them while they wait for their loved one to land.
There are toys here for the children that comes here with their family members. So it just gives them a comfortable environment.
The last Americans to die in Afghanistan landed here last August. 11 Marines, a Navy corpsman, and a soldier, killed at Abbey Gate by a suicide bomber just days before the U.S. withdrawal was complete. Their families and U.S. dignitaries met them at Dover.
America makes a promise to us that should anything happen to us while we're serving, we'll be brought home with honor. We don't leave our fallen behind, that we always honor those who have honored America with their sacrifice.
Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
Thank you to Jennifer for that report. We are live with a live look at the White House in Washington, D.C., where we did just bring you out live earlier today for the Rolling to Remember event. The roar of thousands of motorcycles is returning to our nation's capital this weekend for a series of events honoring the nation's prisoners of war and missing in action. Our Fox News correspondent Lucas Tomlinson takes a closer look.
This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the more than 1 million Americans killed fighting this country's wars. Here in Washington, the annual Rolling to Remember, formerly Rolling Thunder, returned to help Americans remember that sacrifice. Events kicked off Friday at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and at the National Cathedral. John Stewart, a longtime advocate of veterans' causes, spoke to the sparse crowd.
Organizations, it's veterans, it's their families. This country can't be this broken.
A top executive for the group American Veterans asked all Americans to remember those who lost a loved one in defense of this country.
The Gold Star families is who we need to remember today. Those families that lost their loved ones, their sons, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their grandparents, those are the ones we need to remember today. They're not with us today. They're not with their families today, and those are the ones that are struggling for this day.
About 7,000 U.S. troops have been killed in the war on terrorism, double the number of Americans killed on 9/11. Jeremy Butler, the head of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, spoke about the 22 veterans a day lost to suicide and what has made it worse.
COVID's lockdown did not help. It definitely made things worse. It increased isolation, and we know that isolation is one of the biggest problems.
Rolling to Remember will ride through the nation's capital Sunday. They want you to remember the sacrifice of so many. In Washington, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
And back out to Washington we go, where we continue to bring you the latest on events happening across this country to honor our American heroes. A special annual concert is back with a live event this year. Our Fox's Ashley Dvorkin, she has more on this story.
The 33rd Annual National Memorial Day Concert returns with a live show from Washington, D.C. after being taped for the last 2 years due to the coronavirus pandemic.
It's wonderful to be back in D.C. because, you know, we'll be on the west lawn of the Capitol, and just being up on that stage and being able to stare out there and see the Capitol building with that flag flying on top of it, it certainly sets the tone for Memorial Day being the seat of the government of our country.
The event honors the military service of all American men and women in uniform, their families, and those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
It helps you remember that Memorial Day is not even just about what's been going on currently. Let's take it right back to the Revolutionary War and the roots of this country, period. The roots of our Constitution. You know, freedom ain't free, and a lot of people have paid the ultimate price for it.
Each and every day is Memorial Day for General Mark Graham and his wife, Carol. The couple are being honored as a Gold Star family after losing their 2 sons within 8 months, one to depression and the other to the war in Iraq.